Every once in a while, a game comes along that feels like it was built to punish arrogance, but reward obsession. Band of Crusaders looks like a grim medieval strategy experience, but once you start playing, you realize it's something much darker, much more demanding, and honestly, way more interesting than it has any right to be. Over the next few minutes, I'm going to break down how the combat works, how the slow motion tactical system actually feels, why the camp management might be the real star of the game, and what the world does behind the scenes that most players won't notice at first. And yes, I'll show you whether the game earns that permadeath warning. So before we get started, my name is Big Al, and I love tactics games. Grab a cup of tea, grab some coffee, or maybe throw me on while you're having some lunch or dinner. Or throw me on a second monitor, like Josh Strife Hayes always says. Band of Crusaders is a dark medieval fantasy set in Europe, where sins take physical form, literally becoming demonic amalgamations that spread heresy and fear across the realm. You're not a simple mercenary or a wandering hero. You're the Grandmaster of a knightly order, responsible for directing an entire crusade to reclaim Europe from this corruption. So the developers call it a tactical combat game, but it's more like a hybrid of a party-based RPG and slow-motion tactical combat with campaign simulation that really mirrors Mount & Blade and games like that, and it changes whether you want it or not. The game is continuously changing, constantly, and every single time a day passes, new things happen. In the demo, you really see like Paris being taken over, the corruption spreading in real time, and it really adds this sense of urgency to each quest since everything has a time limit. So I'm gonna say that there's three different pillars in the combat. So let's go over the first pillar, and that's a slow motion tactical system. Fights happen in real time, but you slow the world down to about 5% to issue commands. It hits a sweet spot between action and strategy, fast enough to feel intense and slow enough to make real tactical decisions. It's almost like a turn-based game, but you're really controlling everything, almost like Phantom Brigade. Like you can't see into the future, but you're really controlling everything as it goes. Now, number two is our second pillar, synergy and positioning. Abilities aren't just cooldowns. They interact with weapon types, with stats, and with other brothers in your party.
Good brother, join us, and you may sate your rage and aid our cause.
Lead me to the slaughter!
Positioning actually matters more than I expected. Moving a Crusader a few steps can decide whether he survives or dies permanently. And this really plays into fact with some characters and some of the skill trees, which I'll talk about a little later. In positioning, especially like with backstabs, some of the Crusaders, they get negative status effects when they backstab. They think it's like a sin, pretty much. Like they're too much, they have too much ego. While like the farmer class, who uses like the spears and everything, will backstab. He's pretty much like a rogue type, and they are proficient in backstabbing, hitting enemies from the flank, attacking multiple enemies. And it's really interesting how it all kind of plays together and how you have to really manage that all while getting assailed by these demonic figures. And the third pillar I want to mention when it comes to combat systems is permanent death. The consequences are brutal. One mistake, one overextension, one misblock, and that Crusader is gone forever. And trust me, you really feel it. I know personally at the end of one of my battles, I made a misinput. I misclicked, I did something wrong, and it ended up wiping out my entire party except for my archer. And I was devastated. I was truly devastated. I played about 2 hours of the demo, and I noticed that there were some abilities completely changed how you fight. So one of the two-handed weapon abilities was a sweeping attack, pretty much like a gain and a loss. So you can hit multiple enemies with it, but you also aren't going to be doing as much damage, and you're going to be using your skill points. And skill points are very much a currency in this game. And it really sold me when a lot of my allies almost died. But we came together and figured it out, especially when it comes to like knocking enemies out, stunning them, making it work, moving them around, having the archer place down traps and shooting them, wailing into them. All these little things play into the combat system, and it really, really keeps things just tightly together. So I want to talk about the knightly order that you're going to be building, the Band of Crusaders. So you can have up to a roster of 20 knights. You manage a full Crusader order. Each knight has a unique background, strengths, weaknesses, and personality traits that actually matter for the synergy. Resource scarcity is a massive thing. I can't even explain how many times I have been running out of resources, looking for healing kits, looking for healing resources, looking for materials to keep my equipment as fresh as possible. And it makes sense. Europe is in ruins. You're constantly short on something, supplies, healing, manpower. Every decision in the overworld feels like a trade-off. So, and you don't always get something from doing battles. And I thought, and this is where I made a mistake, I thought I was going to always reap a reward from a fight, like a major fight that really brought me down to very low HP, but I ultimately didn't. And that's where we talk about the camp. Now, your camp is the beating heart of your run. It's everything. You can make camp anywhere, but everything is happening at this camp. You upgrade your buildings to recruit new brothers, train them, repair equipment, and keep the order functional. but these buildings aren't just for stats. They interact with each other. Obviously, there's so much interaction with every single thing. So you have pretty much like an infirmary, and you're not just healing your brothers. You are bringing everything together in the sense of, oh, hey, you could boost these stats. You can do this, and you can make sure that, oh, this guy broke his arm in a fight. He almost died. He stays there, but it's going to take a while. It's going to take like a couple days, and it'll tell you how many days it takes to repair this person. Same thing goes for your equipment. Everything melds together really well, and your equipment is constantly breaking, and it's constantly being repaired. So there's so much upkeep that you have to manage, but it's not like micromanaging. And that's something that I really do like. Now, let's talk about the character creation and the lack of character creation, I'm going to say. Unlike most tactical RPGs, there are no classes. Instead, abilities are tied directly to your weapons. Your crusaders gain attributes, passive bonuses, and active skills through a branching skill tree that encourages hybrid builds. This means you can turn someone into a frontline tank who also throws holy fire, or a long-range support knight who suddenly becomes a flail-spinning menace. And all these things play into a massive thing that we haven't touched on yet, and it's enemies. The enemies themselves are dangerous. Humans, they're just like you. They're built different. They are brutal. And I noticed it took me a while to get some fights done. It's like the armor setting, if you don't have the proper equipment to battle against monsters and humans, very much like The Witcher, it's going to take you a while and you're probably going to fail. So really having something like, oh, there is someone who has a ton of armor, you're going to want someone with a flail. You're going to want someone with a heavy two-hand blunt weapon to break down their armor. And then you have your sharp and then your blade people come in and really whittle them down. So the blades are really, they do the damage to the health, right? But the blunt weapons do the damage to the armor. So you have to really like ebb and flow it. And it's like blunt weapons are going to be doing more stunning. Shields will also do some stunning. It's really, really interesting how you have to micromanage during a battle. Like, oh, who's going to hit who's going to go where? And even fighting the archers, it seems pretty difficult because like they'll move around. The AI is definitely not dumb. And I really enjoyed that in like building my characters up and giving them attribute points that reflect the type of character that they are, like giving them more dex so they crit more, like my farmer, giving him more crit, giving my archer more dex, more crit, giving him a passive where if he's not next to anyone and he shoots 3 times, the 4th shot is going to be a crit. And he shoots faster. He shoots 25% faster when he's not around anyone, and he crits more often. That's really cool. It's really unique, and I really enjoy that. So let's dive into the world simulation. Demonic forces move across Europe whether you fight them or not. Human factions react. You will be fighting with humans. You will be fighting with a band of random people sometimes. Sometimes it's like militia groups who are trying to just defend a caravan, or poachers who are trying to take your stuff. Let me tell you, the day and night cycles are crazy in this game. And you can see every single battle condition before you even enter a fight. And again, that's something that's really, really cool. And I love it. The world gets more corrupted over time. Eventually, everything builds up to the archdemon boss battles, where your preparation or lack of it becomes very obvious. And believe me, it is very obvious. This thing will beat you down. This thing will whoop you like you haven't been whooped before, okay? This thing will whoop you so bad, it's like you stole someone's lunch money and you came home with a stolen Twinkie. Your ass is gonna be beaten, all right? That archdemon, that thing takes out the belt, and I can't even talk about it. All right, let's talk about the enemy design. The enemy design, oh my God, the enemy design is it is right out of the book, baby. Enemies are directly inspired by biblical demonology, all right, and European folklore. Every family of creatures has its own weaknesses, strengths, and combat quirks. That means swapping tactics isn't optional, it's survival. Now, let me tell you, these monsters look like they are demons. They are really demons. These things are ugly. They are ugly, okay? They're gonna beat you down. And there's even a point where it's like they'll stop fighting you and then they'll just start eating a random corpse to get their health back and arm. I'm like, no. You can't be doing that. Not in this house. So then you just have to, it's, again, there's so much extra strategy they have to think about, like preventing them from doing that. They'll be eating, healing, and then you have to like beat their ass while they're eating and then just stop and then just start whooping your ass. It's like, okay, this is getting crazy. Now, this is it. All right, these are my final thoughts. This is on the, I'm done. Band of Crusaders is shaping up to be a deep, brutal, brain-burning tactical experience with a surprising amount of personality for such a small indie studio. Virtual Alchemy clearly respects player expression and complexity. They want you to experiment, fail, rebuild, and carve your own crusade through a dying Europe. If you want me to continue this run, test specific builds, or push deeper into the demonic invasion, let me know in the comments below, because I'm absolutely going back in, regardless. And I'm Big Al, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye!